topic is all about planning and describing educational goals. Speaking is Lara Andrea Elipata, a student of Master in Physical Education and Sports. Helping students learn subject matter involves more than the delivery of facts and information. The goal of teaching is to assist students in developing intellectual resources to enable them to participate in, not merely to know about, the major domains of human thought and inquiry. So therefore, understanding the subject matter content is important in identifying the subject matter goals and objectives. Defining educational goals and objectives based on subject matter content. Educational goals and objectives are defined as the statements that describe the skills, competencies, and qualities that a student should possess upon completion of a course or program. Subject matter content is defined as the matter presented for consideration in discussion, thought, or study. It is also known as the topic. It is also defined as the actual knowledge and learning to be imparted. It includes cognitive, skill, and affective components. From these components, we form our goals. Aim, goal, and objectives are three different terms. Aim is defined as the product of a long-term endeavor measured over a course of 1 or more years, meaning aim is achieved through a long period of time. While goals are broad, generalized statements about what is to be learned. Think of it as the target. While objectives are described as the actions or activities involved in achieving a goal. Think of it as the arrows that will be launched to the target. The main difference between objectives and goals is that objectives are precise actions or measurable steps individuals and groups take to move closer to the goal. They are specific targets that typically have a time-bound schedule or timeline for completion. In order to create appropriate educational objectives, it must be observable and measurable. Educational objectives should focus on the learner and contain action verbs that describes measurable behaviors. Let us have an example. Okay, so our topic is physical education. What is the aim? The aim is the learner should be able to or have physical literacy and will live an active life for fitness and lifelong health. As defined, the aim can be achieved through a long period of time. Next, the goal. So the main goal of the lesson is that the learner will be able to improve their gross motor skills like hopping, skipping, stepping, walking, and running. So for the objectives, there are three domains. So number one, cognitive. The learner will be able to recognize the rhythmic pattern and translate to movement. Second one is psychomotor. The learner will be able to mimic the movement by hopping through a maze. And lastly, affective. The learner will be able to voice emotional support to others. The teacher serves as the facilitator of the lesson. For the cognitive objective, the students will be asked to recognize the rhythmic pattern in a series of claps and indicate recognition and understanding by hopping on the third beat. For the physical objective, the students will be asked to mimic the practice third beat hops, and the students will hop in rhythmic time through a maze without stopping. And for the affective objective, students observing other students' efforts will be expected to voice emotional support by cheering peers on. The teacher serves as the facilitator while the students do the activities. Now, let us proceed to the Bloom's revised taxonomy. In order to create appropriate educational objectives, we can take a look at the Bloom's revised taxonomy. In 1956, Benjamin Bloom with collaborators Max Engelhardt, Edward First, Walter Hill, and David Grathwohl published a framework for categorizing educational goals, which is known as the Bloom's taxonomy of educational objectives. This framework has been applied by generations of K-12 teachers and college instructors in their teaching. The framework elaborated by Bloom and his collaborators consisted of 6 major categories: knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Hereafter, this is referred to as the original taxonomy. 45 years later, the revision of this framework was developed by David Grathwohl and Lauren Anderson. Who are Anderson and Grathwohl? These gentlemen are the primary authors of the revision to what had become known as Bloom's taxonomy. This taxonomy had passed through teaching and instructional planning for almost 50 years before it was revised in 2001. They called together a group of educational psychologists and educators to help them with the revisions. Lauren Anderson was once a student of the famed Benjamin Bloom, and David Grathwohl was one of Bloom's partners as he devised his classic cognitive taxonomy. From the late 1950s into the early 1970s, there were attempts to dissect and classify the varied domains of human learning: cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. The resulting efforts yielded a series of taxonomies for each area. Bloom's cognitive taxonomy had been essential in teacher training and professional preparation for almost 40 years before Anderson and Grathwohl instituted an updated version. The cognitive domain focused on intellectual skills such as critical thinking, problem solving, and creating a knowledge base. It was the first domain created by the original group of Bloom's researchers. The cognitive hierarchy spans from simple memorization, designed to build the knowledge of learners, to creating something new based on previously learned information. In this domain, learners are expected to progress linearly through the hierarchy, beginning at remember and ending at create. The new revised version introduced a key change to the cognitive domain of Bloom's taxonomy. It shifted the language used from nouns to verbs, and thereby focused the attention away from acquisition and towards active performance of the types of learning involved in each stage of hierarchy. Anderson's and Grathwohl's taxonomy. For level 1, students should be able to remember. Students should be able to exhibit memory of previously learned materials by recalling facts, terms, basic concepts, and answers. The verbs that can be used are defines, describes, identifies, knows, labels, lists, matches, names, outlines, recalls, recognizes, reproduces, selects, and states. The next level is to understand. The student should be able to demonstrate understanding of facts and ideas by organizing, comparing, translating, interpreting, giving descriptions, and stating main ideas. The verbs that can be used are comprehends, converts, defends, distinguishes, estimates, explains, extends, generalizes, gives an example, infers, interprets, paraphrases, predicts, rewrites, summarize, and translate. For the next level is to apply. The student should be able to solve problems to new situations by applying acquired knowledge, facts, techniques, and rules in a different way. The verbs that can be used are applies, changes, computes, constructs, demonstrates, discovers, manipulates, modifies, operates, predict, prepare, produce, relate, show, solve, and use. For the fourth level is to analyze. The student should be able to examine and break information into parts by identifying motives or causes. They should be able to make inferences and find evidence to support generalizations. The verbs to be used are analyze, breaks down, compare, contrast, diagram, deconstruct, differentiate, discriminate, distinguish, identify, illustrate, infer, outline, relate, select, and separate. For the fifth level, the student should be able to evaluate. They should be able to present and defend opinions by making judgment about information, validity of ideas, or quality of work based on a set of criteria. Words to be used were appraise, compare, conclude, contrast, criticize, critic, defend, describe, discriminate, evaluate, explain, interpret, justify, relate, summarize, and support. For the last level of the cognitive taxonomy is to create. The student should be able to compile information together in a different way by combining elements in a new pattern or proposing alternative solutions. Verbs to be used are categorize, combine, compile, pose, create, devise, design, explain, generate, modify, organize, plan, rearrange, reconstruct, relate, reorganize, revise, rewrite, summarize, tell, and write. An example of Anderson and Kratl's taxonomy is as follows. For the topic Impressionist and Expressionist movement. For level 1, remember, the student should be able to list primary and secondary colors. For level 2, understand, they should be able to explain the characteristics of an impressionist art. For level 3, apply. The student should be able to demonstrate the techniques in painting. For level 4, analyze. The student should be able to compare and contrast the impressionist and expressionist art characteristics. For the fifth level, the student should be able to critique some notable works of art. Now that they know the different characteristics of impressionist and expressionist art, they should be able to critique or notice some differences and similarities between the notable works of art. And last but not the least, now that they know the different characteristics, the techniques, and the similarities and differences of different notable works of art, the student should be able to create an artwork of their own using the art technique impasto. Next, for the affective domain. The affective domain is defined as the domain that focuses on the attitudes, values, and interests of and appreciation of learners. This is an illustration of Cratwell's taxonomy of affective domain learning. For level 1, receiving. For level 2, responding. For level 3, valuing. For level 4, organization. And for level 5, characterization. Let us discuss the different levels of Cratwell's affective domain taxonomy. Under Cratwell's taxonomy, Level 1 is receiving. Students should be willing to listen and be aware to receive knowledge. So the verbs to be used are ask, chooses, describe, follows, gives, holds, identify, locate, name, point, select, sit erects, replies, and use. For the second level, responding. Active participation on the part of the learners and engaging to transfer knowledge. Verb. Answer, assist, aid, comply, conform, discuss, greet, help, label, perform, practice, present, read, recite, report, select, tell, and write. For the third level is valuing. Finds value and worth a person attaches to a particular object, phenomenon, or behavior and is motivated to continue. Verbs to be used are complete, demonstrate, differentiate, explain, follow, form, initiate, invite, join, justify, propose, read, report, select, share, study, and work. For the fourth level is organization. The students, for the fourth level is organization. The student should be able to organize values into priorities by contrasting different values, resolving conflicts between them, and creating a unique value system. Verbs to be used are adhere, alter, arrange, combine, compare, complete, defend, explain, formulate, generalize, identify, integrate, modify, order, organize, prepare, relate, and synthesize. And for the fifth level, the characterization. Students have a value system that control their behavior. Instructional objectives are concerned with the student's general patterns of adjustment. It can be personal, social, and emotional. Now let us proceed with the example. Example of Cratwell's taxonomy. Under receiving, for the level 1, students should become aware of the different study habits that they have. Next, for the level 2, responding, the students should participate in the class discussion about breaking free from faulty study habits. And for the third level, valuing, the objective should be the student should differentiate good from bad study habits. And for number 4, organization, the objective must be the student should prepare a plan about avoiding the bad study habits that they have. And for the fifth level, characterization, the objective is to practice good study habits and perform well in class. For the last domain is the psychomotor domain. There are several different versions including different hierarchies. I chose Simpson's theory of psychomotor domain. This hierarchy ranges from using sensory cues to creating new movement patterns. For level 1, perception. Students should have the ability to use sensory cues to guide motor activity. This ranges from stimulation through cue selection to translation. It is also known as awareness. The verbs to be used are choose, describe, detect, differentiate, distinguish, identify, isolate, relate, and select. For the next level is set. In this level, the student should demonstrate the readiness to act. It includes mental, physical, and emotional sets. These three sets are dispositions that predetermine a person's response to different situations. Sometimes it is called mindsets. Verbs to be used are begins, display, explain, move, proceed, react, show, state, and volunteer. For the third level is guided response. The early stages in learning a complex skill that includes imitation and trial and error. Adequacy of performance is achieved by practicing. Verb to be used in forming objectives are copy, trace, follow, react, reproduce, response, and so forth. For the fourth level is mechanism, or also uh, basic proficiency. This is the intermediate stage in learning a complex skill. Learned responses have become habitual and the movements can be performed with some confidence and proficiency. Verbs that can be used to form objectives are assemble, calibrate, construct, dismantle, display, fasten, fix, grind, hit, manipulate, measure, mend, mix, organize, and sketch. For the for the fifth, sorry. For the fifth level is complex overt response or expert. The skillful performance of motor acts that involve complex movement patterns. Proficiency is indicated by a quick, accurate, and highly coordinated performance, requiring a minimum of energy. This category includes performing without hesitation and automatic performance. Verbs to be used: assemble, build, calibrate, construct, dismantle, display, fasten, fixes, grind, heat, manipulate, measure, mend, mix, organize, and sketch. Next level is adaptation. Skills are well developed and the individual can modify movement patterns to fit special requirements. Verbs to be used are adapt, alter, change, rearrange, reorganize, revise, and vary. And last but not the least, for the last level is the origination. Here, the students can create new movement patterns to fit a particular situation or specific problem. Learning outcomes emphasize creativity based upon highly developed skills. Verbs that can be used to form objectives are arrange, build, combine, compose, construct, create, design, initiate, make, and originate. Now let us have the example. For the level 1, perception, the students must be able to detect non-verbal communication cues. For the next level is set, the student should be able to react upon a sequence of steps in practice. For the level 3, guided response, the student should be able to perform the basic step in a ballroom dance as demonstrated. So the teacher serve as the demonstrator of the basic step. Okay? In this part, the students have guidance from the teacher. Next level is mechanism or basic proficiency. The student should be able to perform the basic steps at own pace without guidance. So after the teacher demonstrates the basic step, the student will practice on their own until they become proficient of the steps without the guidance of the teacher. Next level is complex overt response or expert. In this level, the student should be able to perform a dance performance or a ballroom dance with music without guidance at their own pace. So meaning, in this part, the student should be able to apply the steps they learned from the teacher without the teacher demonstrating the step. Next, for the sixth level adaptation, the students should be able to alter the dance steps and add variety in dance performance. So they can add or they can repeat some steps, they can change steps from the original routine that the teacher gave. And for the origination, from the different basic steps that they learned and different styles altered or the steps altered, they can create an original dance routine. For comments and suggestions, write it down at the comment section. Thanks for watching! See you next time!